What's up guys? It's your boy Sarthe here, and I'm coming to you today with a Phase 3 Best in Slot PvP Gear Guide. I'm sure we all know some people that have reached rank 14, and we can see how much they've honestly been on this game. All day, all night, and it's pretty much unattainable for your average person. But that doesn't mean that you can't have extremely good PvP gear. You can even beat them in 1v1s or even in world PvP situations. And so that's where this video will come in, really. We're going to focus on getting all the best gear for a world PvP and battleground situation. Gear slightly deviates if you're going for duels, because then you're going to end up switching in certain pieces depending on what class you're dueling. I do want to quickly note that even though the AV pre-made meta has died, if you go into Warsong Gulch and you're not in a pre-made, chances are 90% of the time you're going to go against a pre-made. Especially on the Alliance side. For some reason it seems like the Alliance are always running a pre-made. But just know that not all of these pre-mades are that good. The footage in the background is going to be me messing around in a pug as raid spec, and we still actually end up beating this pre-made. So it's definitely not impossible to beat these pre-mades. You can have a lot of fun still, but I think the most fun for PvP right now is world PvP. The first thing I want to say as we're getting started is that there are certain set bonuses you want to keep in mind. Ones that are going to be important specifically are going to be the 5-piece from your Night Slayer set, which you already have. Having that extra 10 energy can not only be life-saving, but it can change your opener, and if you're dagger spec, you can usually just wreck someone before they get out of your first set of stun locks. Rogues are pretty widely dependent on our CDs, so decreasing your Vanish cooldown is extremely helpful in world PvP and BG situations. The other one that we're going to look at is the 3-piece from the Bloodfang set, which increases your chance to apply poisons by 5%. It's not a massive amount, but getting a crippling poison on your opponent can be the difference between winning and losing a fight. I'm basically saying that the best gear situation is most likely going to be running 5 pieces of tier 1 and 3 pieces of tier 2. But that's not really saying much, so let's get into exactly which pieces we want to go for. The most important piece of this set is going to be the Bloodfang gloves. The tier 2 gloves have a built-in immunity to disarm, so you don't have to use a weapon chain in your offhand, and you can instead enchant with Crusader or 15 agility, which is also coming out this week. After the gloves, it's a little bit up to you to choose what you want to go with. The bracers are pretty nice because they add a hit chance, but you're already hit capped as it is. And that's kind of the same issue with the chest piece. Also, everyone for PvE is going to be going after the chest piece, so you want to kind of focus on the pieces you can get right away. You could go after the shoulders because a lot of people won't be going after those right away because they'll lose the hit if they're doing PvE, and they add a little bit of mitigation. And you can also go after the boots because they also add a little bit of mitigation and the stats are pretty nice. But that's not to say really you need to choose something specific. The one piece of tier 2 that's absolutely vital to PvP players are the gloves. Since we started with the tier 2, I'm going to keep going through Blackwing Lair loot specifically to start off this video. So what other pieces from Blackwing Lair do you want? And what are good substitutes? Because there are items that are even better than the tier pieces if you don't really care about the set bonus. So the first item I'm going to mention is something I actually talked about in my Blackwing Lair PVE Prio guide. If you watch that guide, I would actually take this off of the PVE Prio, even though it's really good, and add the talisman, the necklace, but whatever. The first thing I'm talking about is the Cloak of Firemaw. This is giving you stamina and an incredible amount of attack power. This is going to be your best cloak for PvP. These next 2 pieces are completely valid substitutes to getting any of the tier pieces. What I'm talking about are the Taut Dragonhide pieces. The Taut Dragonhide shoulders off of Chromagus, and the Taut Dragonhide belt off of Firemaw, Ebonrock, and Flamegore. They're kind of like better versions of the Cadaverous set, and the amount of attack power and stamina is pretty ridiculous. After that, you also have a little bit of a choice. The Rogue class trinket Venomous Totem is actually pretty decent if you want to make sure that you get a poison off on a target. This is an extremely situational item, and it can be useful, so I did want to mention it before I move on to weapons. These next 2 items, if you want to get them, you're going to end up having to fight people for them. First is the Master Dragon Slayer's ring. This is the ring that you get after turning in Nef's head. It's kind of like Onyxia, one will drop every time you kill the boss and one a week will go to someone. So if your guild is full clearing BWL, you will absolutely get this. But the next item is the Drake Fang Talisman. Every single BIS list that talks about PvP or PvE in Blackwing Lair is going to mention the Drake Fang Talisman. It's going to suck trying to get this item over other people. You're going to have to fight your way, but Drake Fang Talisman is huge. It will actually replace your Hodge if you're going to be using something else like a situational trinket as your secondary trinket, and if not, it'll replace your Blackhand's Breath. Either way, this is the best trinket in the game right now for PvP. The last real items in BWL that you want to focus on are quite possibly the most important ones, and I left them for last because a lot of people might not realize how many options you actually have if you're going to be PvPing. So that's obviously the weapons. Blackwing Lair comes with a lot of options when it comes to weapons. There's swords, maces, fist weapons, and daggers. So what do we want? I'm currently playing dagger spec, and I'm looking to switch to sword spec for PvE, so I'm going to be going after chromatically tempered sword and Maladath as my weapons. But if you're focused primarily on PvP, you don't have to go after those weapons, because everyone in PvE is wanting them. So you can go after weapons that are actually slightly better or right on par with these. The first of these weapons is the Claw of the Black Drake. This weapon is absolutely comparable with chromatically tempered sword. It has twice the drop rate, and you're going to see a lot less people going after it. So if you're running Hemo spec, go after Claw of the Black Drake as your main hand weapon. The other weapon that you could be going after is Shatter Spine. Now this is the first mace that is actually on par with the other weapons. I would say it's slightly weaker than Claw of the Black Drake or chromatically tempered sword, but it's also another weapon that you won't have as much competition going after. Next is the dagger, Dragon Fang Blade. This dagger has a decent drop chance off Veilstraz, and it has slightly weaker top end than Purds, but if you haven't had the luck to get a Perdition's Blade yet, this is a great weapon to substitute it for. Also, with the agility and stamina, it actually could prove better in different situations than Purds. You might hit a little weaker, but you have more survivability. So Dragon Fang Blade is definitely on par with having a Purds. And if you want to be hitting those huge backstab crits, this is the weapon to go for. Lastly, from the raid are the two ranged weapons. These weapons are Heart Striker and Dragon Breath Hand Cannon. I would say Heart Striker is slightly better, but Dragon Breath Hand Cannon is probably going to be an upgrade as well. So you can go for either of these weapons. Hunters aren't going to be going after them. Dragon Breath Hand Cannon, I believe, is Warrior BIS, so you might want to go straight after Heart Striker. That's everything to really focus on getting in the raid, but what else is there? Well, this past week, the Dark Moon cards started dropping, and there's one Dark Moon card that's actually pretty decent for rogues in PvP, and that's the Dark Moon card Maelstrom. Maelstrom procs and does damage to your target. It's basically a straight up damage increase. This will sub in as your secondary trinket, and it's going to be better than Blackhand's Breath, but it won't be better than DFT or Hodge. So if you do get this, you're going to be wanting to use it as your second trinket, but it might be a pretty expensive trinket. Another thing to note from the Dark Moon Fair is the Epic Necklace. This necklace is pretty good for PvP as well, and you can buy it with 1,200 Dark Moon Fair tickets. Like last time, I put a little calculation on the screen so you can see exactly what you need to be able to buy those tickets instantly. Now, if you look at the professions, there's a couple items that may be decent, but there's nothing actually that's better than the raid gear for rogues, even in PvP. You can look at the Molten Belt, but the Taut Dragonhide Belt is significantly better, so you don't really need to worry about crafting anything. That's pretty much it. Those are pretty much the exact items to focus on if you love and want to do a lot of PvP this patch. Now that the AV pre-made meta is broken, you can do a lot of Warsong Gulch. Hopefully you won't go against the pre-made, and you can actually have a lot of fun with it. Getting this BIS gear will set you up to be prepared for any situation, and from there, it's all about your own skill. I will be making PvP guides going over exactly how to deal with every class as a rogue. But first, with the release of the raid, I'm going to be focusing on that, and next I'll make a video basically going over exactly which consumables you need for which encounters. If you liked the video or enjoyed my content or anything like that, please feel free to subscribe and give it a like. If you have any questions or want me to do a video on anything specific, just leave a comment You can also hit me up on Twitch. I will be streaming the raid, and good luck to everybody in the new raid. Peace out.